Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major!
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios and the films they release. My name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And Charlie Nash.
Hello.
And today we are talking about Open Your Eyes, aka Abre, ojos, which came out internationally in 1997, December 19th, 1997, domestically released by Artisan on April 16th, 1999. Opened in 10 theaters, max of 34 theaters. The budget was $2.2 million. I used a currency generator or whatever because I could only find it in the money it was made for, and then I tried to convert it to US and it said 2.2 million, but that seems kind of low. But anyways, probably under 5 million. Opening weekend it did $38,000, domestic gross of $370,000. This was oddly nominated for 3 Fangoria Chainsaw Awards in 2000 for best limited release.
What?
I don't know why. For best limited release / direct-to-video film, best supporting actress, and best screenplay. So yeah.
Was Cruz the supporting actress?
Oh yeah. I want to know what the other nominees were. It was just like Abre Los Ojos, and then what was it, 99? And then, well, no, that wouldn't work. I don't know. Who was the wife in Stir of Echoes? She probably got nominated.
Oh, Catherine Erb. Yeah.
Yeah. You'd be like, oh man, gotta give it to her.
What about Ileana Douglas? I feel like she deserved something.
No, she would get nominated for Best Heat Check. She's in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
top 5 films this weekend: Life, The Matrix, Never Been Kissed, Analyze This, and 10 Things I Hate About You. The only one I haven't seen is Life. Analyze This is watchable, I guess.
Didn't Kenneth Lonergan write that?
Yeah.
Yes, and
That's
Rocky
crazy.
and Bullwinkle.
And Rocky and Bullwinkle, which I did see in theaters.
Saw it on video.
Yeah, I definitely rented that. And I watched Analyze This and Analyze That back to back. Boy, howdy. Analyze That is a fucking terrible movie. Everything else on this is pretty good. Number 1 song in the US this week is No Scrubs by TLC, of course.
Fuck yeah.
Number 1 song in Canada. This is a band that does not exist outside of Canada, I think. Love Song by Sky.
I'm not familiar with them.
It says
me neither.
Sky. It says Sky is a Canadian R&B infused pop rock group.
Have any of you ever done No Scrub for karaoke? Because I've done it like a couple times, and I always forget how long that song goes on for. Where you realize you're just singing the chorus 3 times in a row, and you're just kind of like, oh shit, I'm just like standing here. And everyone's already hered this 3 times in a row, and you're just kind of like...
That's better than picking a song and then forgetting it has like a minute and a half instrumental, and you're just like...
Just wait, what did you like pick November Rain for karaoke once, Kevin?
I've seen people pick Freebird for karaoke, and I was like, that shouldn't be allowed.
No, that should absolutely not be allowed.
A weirdly popular karaoke song, or song that people would be like singing in public in my first year of college, was like Hurt by Johnny Cash. I guess because I feel like it maybe came back into popularity because it was in that trailer for Logan, the Wolverine movie.
Yeah.
And like, hey, great song, great cover. But it was like people would be like singing it to like serenade people, or like to like at karaoke I'd be like, this is a fucking downer. Like, what are you doing?
Last song I did for karaoke was 1 Week by the Bare Naked Ladies, just because I was in one of those.
You were just like, oh, the rap part's easy. This is gonna be fun. And it
was at a party that I drove to where I couldn't really get, I couldn't have too much confidence juice, which is how I usually do karaoke. So I was like, well, I'll just pick something bad, so if I butcher it, it's like, that's understandable. And that song fucking annihilated me.
You're like, I didn't remember them mentioning Sailor Moon in the raps. What's going on here?
Yeah.
The last karaoke song I did was Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit, of course.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. You sent us the video. It was amazing. It was
pretty great. Yeah. I hadn't done karaoke in like 3 or 4 years. And every time I did it like 3 or 4 years ago, I was like sloshed. to the point where me and my friend that I went with was like, fuck it. Let's go up there and do Tearing Up My Heart by NSYNC. Let's burn the city down. We got this, man.
Oh, God. Sorry, just 1 second. I think I sent this to you in the group chat, but at a Christmas party last year at the Coolidge, we were trying to get people to do karaoke, and nobody was really drunk yet. And I'm forgetting which Biggie Smalls song it was, but my friend Billy got up and did
One
that.
More Chance?
Yeah, One More Chance. That was, because I did send it to you. And it's our friend Billy, who recently had a baby, and he's the sweetest guy, and he just got up there, and it's the most vulgar song. We were just screaming, you're a father! Like, during the song.
Yeah, and he was just like, whether it's stiff tongue or stiff dick, Biggie squeeze it to make shit fit.
Yeah, because you guys, that was a night where someone was like, where is everyone for Cinephile Night? And was like, can't join, this is happening at my job. And it was just
like,
Billy
oh,
doing.
okay.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Open Your Eyes is about a handsome man that finds the love of his life, but he suffers an accident and needs to have his face rebuilt by surgery after it's severely disfigured. I feel like that's leaving out a few things, but that's fine.
Yeah, quite a few.
It actually, before, it was it's about a very, very handsome man. And I was just like, this plot description wants to fuck this guy. This guy's really hot until halfway through, and then, boy, howdy, it's hard to look at. Written and directed by Alejandro Amenábar. Prior to this, he did Thesis in 1996. After this, The Others in 2001. The Sea Inside in 2004. This is co-written by Mateo Gil. He also co-wrote Thesis and The Sea Inside, and also this movie. Starring Eduardo Noriega as Caesar. Prior to this, he's in Thesis also. After this, The Devil's Backbone in 2001. Trans-Siberian and Vantage Point in 2008.
Yep, seen both of those.
I forgot he was in The Devil's Backbone. I haven't seen that movie in years.
I haven't seen it.
I should watch it. Yeah.
One of Del Toro's best films.
Oh. Penelope Cruz as Sophia. Prior to this, Live Flesh in 1997. All About My Mother in 1999. After this, Blow and the remake Vanilla Sky in 2001. Gothica in 2003. I'll give Charlie 5 minutes. There you go.
I just love in Gothica when Halle Berry somehow is a therapist treating Penelope Cruz, and then when she's rightfully accused of murder, she ends up in the same facility that she treats patients in, and Penelope Cruz acts like Nelson on The Simpsons going, ha ha, like when she ends up in the same facility.
Isn't Downey Jr. in it?
Oh yeah, he's not very good in it either.
And that's where he met his wife, right? Isn't that like the whole thing?
One good thing came out of that. Okay. Remember Robert Downey Jr. in Dreams? Anybody remember In Dreams?
I never saw In Dreams.
No.
It sucks. Oh, man. Yeah. Filet Martinez as Piano.
Paleo, I think.
Paleo.
Is how you,
Yeah, prior to this, also in Thesis. After this, Talk to Her and Darkness in 2002. And Bad Education in 2004.
Oh, Bad Education is... It's funny, that's one that Penelope Cruz wasn't in, and he was.
Right.
Bad Education is, like, along with quite a few other Almodovar films, quite dicey. And I like it.
One of his 9 NC-17 movies or something.
Yeah, I mean, that one's deserved. I mean, the content in that film, I mean, it's all about very triggering content, so... I mean, I like that movie, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
Trivia. Amenábar imagined the script after having horrible nightmares while ill with the flu. I can see that.
Yep.
Tom Cruise said he was on his mobile phone trying to buy the remake rights during the end credits the first time he saw the movie. Amenábar said in a 2004 interview that while writing it, he thought if this was in America, Tom would play the lead role.
Yeah.
Cool.
He also did the score too, Amenábar. I noticed that he was like,
Oh.
I think he's done the score for a few of his movies, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
that's wild. I didn't know that.
Do you have the thing that he said in 2016, which is crazy?
No.
Please tell us.
In 2016, Alejandro Amenábar said in retrospective that Open Your Eyes was his worst film, telling that it had been written by teenagers who did not know anything about life. I would never have expected that.
He was like 22, but I don't know about all
yeah.
that.
I just find that to be kind of shocking, considering how, you know, this movie was very. I feel like it's still very critically, you know, it still has a good reputation, and you know,
Is this coming from the director that did the horror movie with Emma Watson? Is that what we're getting?
Is that called Regression? Is that what it's called? Yeah. I've heard that's bad.
I have not seen it.
Yep.
What were we just talking about? Oh, it's funny too that like he's like around the same age as like the character in this movie, like who's like he opens the movie by saying, "Oh, I just turned 25" or whatever. And it's interesting that like the remake has Tom Cruise, who like is in his 30s, and that one is like very much about him like trying to preserve his youth, like he's plucking out like gray hairs in the opening scene of Vanilla Sky.
Yeah.
Just kind of again, we'll get into this, but I love like just a little like differences where it's like, oh, this like does add like another layer to the movie that is like
flash forward to 2022 where Tom Cruise apparently doesn't believe he can die or has a big suicidal death wish, or both.
Imagine Tom Cruise trying to do Vanilla Sky now. That'd be wild. I mean, he doesn't take risks anymore. He does take risks, but not with his roles. He would never do Vanilla Sky now. He was like, the most I can do is American Made, and that's all you're getting.
Cameron Crowe hasn't made a movie in a while either. Yeah,
he has to be an auteur along with the director. He's not allowing himself to be part of. He has to be the selling attraction. And I like Tom Cruise as a performer, but I think one thing that does irk me a little bit is I miss him being more collaborative as opposed to just being the thing that people will see the movie for.
Well, you know what happened was he said, I can only work with one Artisan entertainment director, and that is Christopher McQuarrie, and that's it.
Yeah. Wait, he didn't work with, God damn it, I can't even think of a joke. Who did Ringmaster? Who's that?
I don't fucking remember.
Neil Abramson? Yeah.
Yeah, remember when he jumped on the couch and talked how much about how he loved Christopher McQuarrie? That was
I do remember. No, he was saying that about Artisan Entertainment. He was a big fan. When Caesar goes to Sophia's apartment and starts to rip down her photos on the wall, there's a picture of the Sandman, a popular comic book that deals with the world of dreams. Nice. The song playing at the nightclub when Caesar first arrives is Rising Sun by Massive Attack, in which the phrase "dream on" is frequently repeated. Nice.
Likened to mind-bending thrillers like The Game, Total Recall, and The Matrix, Open Your Eyes explores the extremes between dreams and reality and has the critics talking. Starring Penelope Cruz of the High-Low Country and Bella Park, and Eduardo Noriega. Open Your Eyes will keep you guessing until the very end.
Initial thoughts. Charlie, what did you think about this? And also, this is pretty much a two-hander with Vanilla Sky, so if you want to give your Vanilla Sky opinions as well.
Yeah, so I saw Vanilla Sky first, honestly only for the first time like a few years ago, and I thought it sucked. You're not wrong, and you're wrong. I found it equally boring and fascinating, but deeply stupid all at once. I think, oddly enough, this movie I think is a better movie, but it's just fine. Like, I think it's tonally better with the material.
I think it's a better movie, but not as wackily fun.
Yeah, Vanilla Sky I found to be hilariously like awful, but also like what's interesting, like the stuff that I missed was kind of what made Vanilla Sky totally misguided, that made it interesting, whereas the treacly Cameron Crowe-ness of it, the tonal shifts of that movie just made no sense to me and were very jarring. And this one I felt like the tone is very much there throughout. I just think that it's tonally consistent throughout. I don't give a shit about this story, is what I've realized after watching two of these both movies now. Is I'm just like, I have no problem that Cesar or Tom Cruise or whatever is a piece of shit who's, you know, a superficial, vain guy who loves sleeping around. Like, you can make an interesting movie about people like that. I love movies, you know, about toxic men defined by their toxic masculinity. But here I just find this story to be pretty superficial and kind of dull, like, and kind of obvious. I mean, like, it doesn't really feel like there are characters here, like and what it tries to examine in terms of like gender roles and, you know, class and all that stuff. I just find to be very like, yeah. Like, what
They're-
else?
they're not characters, they're dreams.
Yeah, I love movies about dreams. I mean, Mulholland Drive's arguably my favorite movie of all time. I love Eternal Sunshine. I love movies about, you know...
You love In Dreams.
I've never seen In Dreams. I love movies about what is reality and what isn't. You know, David Cronenberg films like Videodrome and Existence. Fucking amazing movies. This, I just found it to be really... Like, I don't mind that it's blunt, but I'm just kind of like, like the two faces, shots of people with two faces where he wears the mask, on the back of his head, and it's that like
That's kind of cool.
It's cool. It's cool, but like that, the sex scene where it's like the two women that are intertwining and stuff like that. It's just like, I get it. I get that he treats women like objects just like he treats money. Like, I get all that shit. And by the end, I'm just like ready for it to be over, where I'm just like, I just don't care. I don't think it's bad. It's just a personal thing on my end, which is just like, I just find this story to be really obvious. And I know that makes me sound smug and very like, I'm over this type of thing, which is not the case. I just don't think that it's a compelling story. And weirdly enough, I think that a lot of aesthetic choices in Vanilla Sky are much more bonkers and like what is this kind of way, but are like really off, that make it more watchable, if not
You remember
exactly
that CGI
good.
sky at the end? That shit rules.
Oh my god, that's hideous. It's so hideous. And the other thing I will say is that I did miss the pops. As much as I don't like Vanilla Sky, that soundtrack fucking rules with Sigur Rós and Radiohead and all that. And like, so
this does have Massive Attack though.
This does have Massive Attack. I love that Massive Attack song. I think that's used well in the club. So what's interesting is I'm like, I think this is easily the better movie, and yet, like, I find Vanilla Sky to be much worse. But like, it's like, I'm sure, weirdly enough, I'm sure if I watched Vanilla Sky now, I'd appreciate more than what it's doing here, because I think that, like, also knowing where this story was going and knowing how it was going to play out, I was just kind of waiting for, like, well, let's see how this turns out in this version, as opposed to, like, being really emotionally invested, because I just don't give a shit about any of these people. I love looking at Penelope Cruz in both movies. It's clear that this movie is what, helped make her a star before... Did she start working with Almodovar before this? Because I know All About My Mother was 1999.
Yeah, Live Flesh.
Live Flesh, that you mentioned. Yeah,
there's like a few other Spanish movies I think beforehand. Like there's one that she's in. I mean,
what's the one with Javier Bardem? That's like,
Hamon.
Yeah.
I know this because the B-side did an episode on Penelope Cruz recently.
Yeah, and I love Penelope Cruz, and I think she's great in this. But
shit, I forgot to put down in 2001. She's also in what's that one with Nicolas Cage?
Captain Crowley's Mandolin.
Yeah, everybody remembers that.
One thing I will say that is interesting in this movie that I think is one of the most entertaining aspects of Vanilla Sky is that the character of Sophia's Penelope Cruz, but Nuria, is that how you pronounce her name? Nuria? Who's essentially the Cameron Diaz character here. In this one, she actually feels like, she still feels like a plot device to me, but she actually feels like more of a human being with hurt. And the scene where Sophia transforms into her is much more violent and upsetting, and like in this version where he like smacks her and stuff, and I was just like, Jesus. And I don't think the movie's endorsing that or anything like that, but there is something about the Cameron Diaz performance in Vanilla Sky where I think it's a much more problematic take on this woman is crazy. Like she's but it is wildly entertaining. She's almost playing her as if, and I hope this doesn't come off as like bad, like I mean this as like kind of a compliment, it's like she's playing Bugs Bunny in drag in most of the scenes where like she's kind of like, because I watched snippets of Vanilla Sky again, and like the thing is, whenever Nuria turns back into Sophia in this one, Sophia, she's genuinely just confused and is like, why are you smacking me and like abusing me? And in the Cameron Crowe version, when she turns back into her, she's like, I'm Sophia, and there's this shot of her being like smiling into the camera as if like, ain't I a stinker? Like that character is portrayed in the Cameron Crowe version as much more problematic and like, don't let these crazy women like fuck up your life kind of thing. But like Cameron Diaz's performance is like pure camp like, I don't even know if it's a good
I was waiting for this
but...
version to have the scene where Cameron Diaz is on the edge of the bed and she just goes, "Wake up, man!" And I was like, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, it's astonishing how different those scenes are. Where like she's like in this version she's like bleeding out of her nose after he smacks her in the face and is crying, and in the Cameron Crowe version he's like tying her up. She's like, "What have you done with Sophia?" And she's like, "I am Sophia," and it's just kind of like. Well, at least Cameron Crowe didn't go the physical route, but like it is just so weird where like So I simultaneously find both of these movies interesting and boring all at once. And it just is on a scene-to-scene basis. Like I'm not going to deny that like I did watch this, like I haven't been sleeping well recently, and in this one, as opposed to Vanilla Sky, there's a moment where he shoots somebody and it kind of snapped me back where I was just like, whoa, what? Like, Jesus, but... I don't know. I just don't think this story is for me personally. I understand and appreciate that it has ideas that intrigue people and people find them very provocative and get a lot out of them intellectually, emotionally, etc. I find it to be a little thin. So, what's the Simpsons joke where she's like, where they're like, "Oh, our lunch food's even worse than before," and they're like cutting up like gym mats, and they're just like, "There's very little meat in these gym mats." That's kind of me with these movies, where I'm just like, there's not that much there for me to really latch onto or care about.
Okay, but Vanilla Sky is the movie where all the kids are like, "Bart, do you want to go see Barton Fink?" They're just like, Barton Fink, Barton Fink. Yeah. That's me with Vanilla Sky. But yeah, I would say that this version of the movie is much sadder than Vanilla Sky. I think because Vanilla Sky is just so wacky and out there, and also it feels like Vanilla Sky gets into the more of the science fiction of it all. Especially, it has the budget for a bunch of CGI and an elevator that goes up like 9,000 levels and shit. While some guy is just like, "Oh, you don't know? It's been like 3,000 years, bub." So
good. Love that scene in that
So
remake. Good. I'm gonna be so enthusiastic about both these movies, but yeah, it's
So I just finished watching it before we got on here, and yeah, I do like it. It's fine to good. Like I said, it's a better movie than Vanilla Sky, but I'd much rather watch Vanilla Sky because it's baffling, and then I see people in this that are delivering like verbatim lines from Vanilla Sky, and I'm like, but I wish Michael Shannon was saying that, or I wish Kurt Russell was saying that. What's going on here?
Kurt Russell's the therapist, right? That's so weird.
Yeah,
imagine having Kurt Russell as your therapist.
It'd be great.
I don't give a fuck about your symptoms or your prison sentence. But yeah, I mean it's good. I mean, Amenábar. Yeah, I wanted to rewatch also the others, which I haven't seen since it came out. But Thesis is also a movie that I like, but have like so much problems with at the same time. But it's just it's the thinking man's 8mm, you could say.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
But it's also like 2 hours and 10 minutes long and has no right to be that fucking long. But anyways, I haven't seen anything past the others, which I feel like most people haven't. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's good. I mean, Penelope Cruz is great in here. She's in Vanilla Sky, but she just doesn't get the chance to say she's the saddest girl to ever hold a martini, and that's just a shame. You know,
she doesn't get to say "We'll meet again when we are both cats."
My God!
What other lines are there? Yeah.
Oh, and Nuria doesn't get to say, "I swallowed your cum. That means something." That is a wildly different scene in Vanilla Sky.
That whole crash scene and everything up into the crash scene in this movie, can't hold a candle to that.
Well, the crash scene in this movie was like, okay, this feels like an actual human being, and it's sad, but there is like something. As much as I'm bored by a lot of Vanilla Sky, that scene with Cameron Diaz is truly batshit cuckoo bananas.
The energies are very different. It happens so much more quickly in the original, where like it's just like he's just like kind of half asleep, and then the car crashes, and then like Vanilla Sky, it's like much more drawn out, where he's like, "Oh no, I think I've done something wrong."
What's that other line that Cameron Diaz has where she's like,
"Know that when you sleep with someone, your body makes a promise whether you do or not."
And then it almost cuts back to Tom Cruise having the same reaction that I did, which was like, "What?"
He's so funny in this. He's like, I thought, get the fuck. What are you talking about? He's so flippant with it. It's such a good scene.
I mean, it's funny to me that Amenábar thinks that this is the worst movie he's ever made because it's like it's made by people who've not lived life yet. Where like the Cameron Crowe dialogue, like stuff like that, makes me think that like the Cameron Crowe's version is even worse when it comes to shit like that. Like I've never heard anybody's. That's like teenage middle school shit. Like, I don't know.
And then he was like, okay, I wasn't realistic enough. Fine, my next movie, I'm gonna get the motherfucker from Pirates of the Caribbean. He's gonna make a suicide bike and he's gonna be selling shoes. Is that more realistic for you fuckers? And you're like, no. Okay, fine. Emma Stone is Hawaiian. You're just like, no,
not yet. We bought a zoo.
We bought a zoo.
Yeah. Be like, okay, Matt Damon buys a zoo, and you're just like, all right, yeah, sure.
I saw Elizabethtown so fucking long ago that I only remember that, and I remember Susan Sarandon does a little dance on stage, and it cuts back to Judy Greer applauding and sobbing at the same time.
What the fuck? Okay, but the car scene in Vanilla Sky has now reminded me, and I was laughing off screen, of we're now back to our film presentation, Homer Simpson, Portrait of an Ass Grabber.
Oh god. No, Mr. Simpson, that's sexual harassment. If you go any further, I'll scream so loud the whole country will hear. With a man
man in the White House.
Yeah. That's the same episode with Gentle Ben too, which is one of the best jokes they've ever done.
That's like in the same scene where they're all just sitting down and watching everybody on TV just roast Homer.
Tonight on Ben, mothers and runaway daughters. Bonded
tonight on Hard Copy.
Yeah, reunited by their hatred of Homer Simpson. Yeah. I think we just need less Homer Simpsons and more money for public schools. Sorry.
So somebody had to take the babysitter home, and I saw her sitting on her suite. Can't, yeah.
With the clock. It's edited so badly that the clock is, like, changing.
Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, no! Yeah.
I have a friend, Dee Dee Crimmins, who has the gummy tattooed on her leg from that episode.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah.
But yeah, those are my thoughts on Simpsons and also Open Your Eyes and Vanilla Sky. Vanilla Sky I watched that, like, I don't know, when I was 11, and I was just like, okay, I totally got this. No, not at all. I feel like, yeah, it was, when I was young, I was just like, wow, that's like the most complex movie ever, and then I grow up and I'm just like, that's silly. I'm gonna watch it again.
It also came out in the same year as Mulholland Drive, which is interesting. And I think Memento and, like, other fractured timeline, what is real, what isn't movies. So this was kind of a trend. The Vanilla Sky was released in December of 2000.
Hell yeah.
Which, look, I don't like that movie, but I kind of miss when big budget movies like Vanilla Sky were at least being made, even if they suck.
It's somehow made $200 million. I have no idea
insane.
how.
And then CinemaScore gave it a D-, and that was it, I guess.
And fucking SAG and Golden Globes nominated fucking Cameron Diaz.
But yeah, look, I can't look. She did a lot of work. Like she worked for it.
In the scenes where he's trying to hide from her while she's at the party, she looks scary. I've never seen Cameron Diaz like that.
I'm just imagining people being like, from the director of Jerry Maguire, I loved that movie, and then going into Vanilla Sky, just being like, just
and they
so
look
baffled.
at the marquee and they're just like, I can think of 2 things wrong with that title. Okay, Bryden, your initial thoughts.
So I really like both Open Your Eyes and Vanilla Sky. I saw Vanilla Sky, like both of you, I saw Vanilla Sky first. I watched that when I was in college, like my second year. I think I rented it from like a video, or no, I bought it from a video store, like because it was like in the bargain bin, and it really worked me over at the time, especially because I think I was really depressed at the time, and what's interesting about the layer of that movie is not just like different performance and line changes, but also the added thing of like the dream world that he builds for himself is made up of old movies and songs that he listened to, and I think that really spoke to me about like when you're just like so sad in your life.
You were like, can you shut up? Quit talking about me, dude. Like, I don't need to see this.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like, oh gosh, like it does get that kind of loneliness and everything that I've like felt where it is like just like I'm gonna just hole up with my media and just like, you know, be like that for a bit. And then, you know, then I went to therapy and that was, you know, it's a little bit better now. But
why are you here? Vanilla Sky. Oh god damn it! You're my third patient this week.
Yeah, and I do like that it does look like a Cameron Crowe movie with like these very autumnal colors and like gauzy movie star lighting, and then like just like increasingly insane shit starts happening. So like the incongruity of that like does work as actually like, I mean, you think it's like off, like as in like it's a wrong choice. I think it actually like the incongruity is like actually what makes it creepier.
It's interesting. I will say there are fascinating, stunning shots. I mean, the fact that they shut down Times Square for that opening,
it's so good.
I can only imagine the chaos New York City was in during that one day where they had to shut down all of Times Square. I can't believe they fucking got away with it for that movie.
Yeah, I mean, in this, like, I mean, in Open Your Eyes, they do like kind of the same shot. They just like crane up and show like all of like the Spanish like city is like is shut down and everything. But then like it doesn't have him actually like, it doesn't have the scene of like him running through and everything. And it's just like, I don't know, it doesn't hold the same weight. I don't think culturally. I guess it's like, you know, I feel like Times Square is like such an iconically crowded place that like it has that different thing. Yeah. I'll try to say some words about Open Your Eyes. I did like this. It is. I think it's as sad as Vanilla Sky, because I think Vanilla Sky is like a very lonely and melancholy movie, and especially like I think that movie like it's about a guy who like when he has like his looks and charisma taken away, he like there's nothing really to him, and he's a pretty bad person. And the movie I think is like kind of wrapped up in his guilt. You think like that the Cameron Diaz character or the jilted lover character in that version is like treated not so well, but I feel like that movie is like actually like kind of him reckoning with like, oh, like I really should have treated women better, otherwise I wouldn't have gotten fucked up in this car accident. And it's like I feel like like so I do feel like the movie I just want to give a little bit of credit to Vanilla Sky for actually like trying to take that character to task a little bit more. But Open Your Eyes, it's as sad, but it does play more like a straight up horror movie with like the music I think by Amenábar is much more overtly scary, whereas like it is like different in Vanilla Sky where it's like a lot of like needle drops and everything that are very poppy, and that incongruity again once again I think makes it very off-putting.
I forgot. Excuse me. I forgot like 4 years ago when I rewatched Vanilla Sky that Joan Osborne's One of Us has a needle drop in it, and I'm pretty sure I just like screamed.
Yeah. And it's again like him, like it's like he's holding on to these pop songs because in his dream it's like, well, this is like the stuff that makes me happy and everything, and I don't. Yeah, and then like it's even as the nightmares collapse, it's like, well, you still have the songs, I guess. But yeah, I liked so Open Your Eyes. It's really creepy. I think. I mean, there's like lots of great suspense setups and everything. Like when he's initially exiting Penelope Cruz's apartment, and then like you see like he just walks to his car and he's just sort of like laissez-faire, and then like you see like in the background Rack's focus to the headlights coming in. It's like, oh shit, like and like the way he just like holds on the shot of like the car just like pulling off as if like something is like, why are we lingering on the shot of this car for like so long? And then like I also like how casually like it kind of like segues into like, oh, like it's like an attempted suicide and everything, where he is like just like kind of like irritated and half asleep for most of it. And I think Noriega's quite good in the scene. And then like he wakes up and realizes like, oh, this is like my moment of doom and everything. And it's like, and it's just like that pop song that's like playing on the radio, and it's like the mundanity of it is like really quite good.
Yeah, and Vanilla Sky has the I think doesn't he have the Breathless poster in his room?
It's Jules and Jim, I think, is like what it is. Like it recreates the Jules and Jim thing. And yeah, and I do like that the movie suggests, I think both in this and Vanilla Sky, that like this guy, if this horrible accident hadn't happened to him, he would not have changed for the better. Like it's like, I mean, because like it shows like it's both like in the way that like right after meeting his dream girl, he goes back to sleep with this girl that he's been trying to avoid, and because he gives into temptation and everything. And then like there's but then like also in the dream world, like I like that the movie doesn't let off his best friend character. his best friend character isn't let off the hook too for being like just like a lesser version of him and everything, like, you know, where it's like they're both like talking about like, oh man, like Sophia's not that good after all and everything, so I don't care that you're with her now and everything. It's like them like clapping hands and everything, and like, and then also like the thwarted like sort of masculine one-upsmanship where they're like arm wrestling each other, and then also showing how like they're playing tennis to each other, and that's sort of underlining how like it is like this guy just feels so emasculated by like being cut down in his physical prime. Yeah, it's I don't know. I guess I just vibed with like the self-loathing of like the guy, and like I think Noriega's really good too, where he will be like really scary and everything, but then like he's almost like kind of like twiddling his hands, like he's like an ashamed kid who's been like sent to the principal's office when he's like tied up who he thinks is Nuria and everything. I think he plays that scene really well. But I also think he's really able to sell like it doesn't have like the same metatextual layers as like casting Tom Cruise in the role, where it's what would happen to this guy who is like really handsome but also kind of intense, and then you strip away like kind of like the superficial features, and then it's like, oh, there might be something really scary underneath. And it's also just the mania of like a lot of Cruise's performances, even in lighter fare, where like there's something a little bit off-putting about how energized he is, but I think Noriega's really believably charismatic and everything in like those scenes with Penelope Cruz, and and I liked looking at it, and the score is like really creepy too, with like the like very it almost like the brassy sort of like emphasis of like the score and everything really it creates a sense of unease, and I don't know, it's also interesting too, like Vanilla Sky, it's interesting how that movie ends with like kind of like, it does almost end with like a redemptive note where it's like, oh yeah, you killed yourself because like you couldn't get over this one thing, but also like people remembered you fondly and everything, whereas in this movie it is like much blunter, where it's like, yeah, you never saw this girl again, everyone you know is like in this world is like a figment of your imagination, and then it's just him screaming as he jumps off the roof and everything. And it's like, I mean, I was joking with you about how like it is wild that like you at least have the cushion of like Sigur Rós over the last scene in Vanilla Sky, whereas in this is just him going ah falls down the roof. It's like, geez, that's much more harrowing a note to end on.
You made it sound as if it's like the Tom scream from Tom and Jerry when he gets like a custard pie thrown in his face. I just don't give a shit about this character in either version.
I kind of did feel this way like whenever he's like massively drunk and his friend and Sophia are walking home and whatnot, and he's running after them, and I'm just like, wait, do I care? But I was like, but I can also understand. But do I care about this guy? Yeah. But
it is like so bracing. It is so uncomfortable and then like also the thing of too, like I'm attracted to stories too about people who like are like will do like lots of other things to like recreate like something in their life when they were happy, or to like make up for when they weren't happy. I mean, I feel like Felicia's Journey, which we'll be talking about, that movie is kind of like about that too, which is sort of an interesting coincidence of programming. But the scene where he's like, and he's talking to a bunch about how like Penelope Cruz is like acting and everything, and like, you know, she's studying acting, she's a mime and everything, and then he tries to do acting, and it's just like, it made me think of a scene in this Joaquin Trier movie, Reprise, where it's like a character like he decides to like recreate a whole trip to Paris with like his ex-girlfriend and everything, and he's like saying, we need to say these exact lines and go to these exact places and everything, and it's just like the forced desperation of it is just like so uncomfortable. And like Penelope Cruz, just like her like discomfort during the scene where she's like just like covering her face, where she's just like, I can't fucking take this guy, he's like so brutal. It's like, I don't know, I found that stuff really good. And also the Massive Attack song, what's really good too about like, you know, kind of like digging at this guy's like self-loathing is one of the lyrics talk about crocodile tears, so it's like it really, I think that's the movie like digging, it's like this guy like needs to fucking get over himself and everything, where like in a way where like it is like, and like the people like the doctors are too saying like, dude, like, yeah, your face like got messed up, but you can still like talk and walk and do all these other things. There are people who like can't even do that. Like, why are you like, I mean, this potentially gets into dicey territory with like the movie's premise is ableist and whatnot, but like I don't know. I do like the movie is like balancing self-critique while also like taking the horror of this guy's situation pretty seriously.
The makeup in this one is also much more intense than in
Oh,
Vanilla
yeah.
Sky, where I felt like I can only imagine Tom Cruise there being like, "This is what we want to do," and him Tom Cruise being like, "You're not putting that makeup on me." Like,
Yeah, that's not happening. But yeah, in this one, it's like. I definitely, the thing that I kept looking at was the skin fold, like that made his like left eye, like where he couldn't see anything really and stuff like that. It was just much more detailed than in Vanilla Sky, that's for sure. I will say the mask in Vanilla Sky is creepier, but they're both pretty damn creepy.
And it's so creepy. I love that they both have the image of him wearing the mask on the back of his head as well as and then like he has the front of his head as he's just like bopping through the club. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so creepy looking. Just like, and then it's
and also in Vanilla Sky he has like, I don't know if it's because he's drunk, but he has much of a slurred voice after the accident than in this.
Well, it is funny. They both have like people have talked about with the movie. It's funny how like the voiceover, it's like it's not clear. It'll be like talking like sort of like muffled and everything because like it's like in both movies. I think they have that. Yeah, no, I for me. I'm glad that both movies exist because it's like, oh, I like the song, but also it's like the arrangements in both are not. It's not better or worse for me. I would probably watch Vanilla Sky more because even though I find that movie also really sad, it is like, you know, I guess it's maybe just like the slickness of like a Cameron Crowe Hollywood movie and or anything with like the needle drops and like. There's also like kind of a sense of humor with some of the performances, like Noah Taylor when he's like the guy delivering the exposition. He's like there's like kind of a smugness to him that is very funny. He's like, "Forgive me, I'm blowing your mind." Yeah, which is like, and this movie is kind of lacking in humor, which I guess I could ding it for, where it is like just not as enjoyable. But I don't think that's also what it's going for. I think it is trying to like get under your skin and creep you out more, which I think it's very effective at doing. And but I'm glad both movies exist and it like they complement each other.
This one definitely feels more scathing towards its protagonist who, like, that's the one thing I will say is I didn't really care, but it seems like the movie knows he sucks in this one.
Yeah.
Whereas Cameron Crowe's has a lot more humor, but it also has like the earnestness and like the sentimentalism of other Cameron Crowe movies, where at the end of Vanilla Sky, I'm just like, oh fuck this guy, he sucks. Like, I just don't care. Like, even if it's Tom Cruise in an interesting. It's an interesting vanity project for me, Vanilla Sky, because Tom Cruise, as we talked about, produced that movie, and like,
that was a Cruise Wagner joint.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't hate that either of these movies exist. I'm glad a lot of people get stuff out of them. It's just like I genuinely felt bad watching it because I'm just like I get why people like respond to this so well. I just don't care. Like there's nothing for me to grasp onto other than archetypes, you know.
Right. Isn't it in Vanilla Sky, it's, don't they play up the fact that, like, his parents died and that's how he inherited this company and he has to talk to the 8 company men or something like that, right?
I believe so.
And he's like a magazine editor in that one, whereas in this he's a caterer, which is the same profession as the protagonist of Felicia's Journey, oddly enough.
Yeah, but I was just like, what does this person do? I mean, like, the wiki summary is a confident and wealthy young man who has money and is successful with women, and I'm like, that's basically all we learn.
But then
that's basically all we know.
Well, the Vanilla Sky definitely underlines the loneliness of that guy, where it's like he lost his parents, he doesn't really have a lot of friends, and then like also he's like spends his time watching movies and to compensate for his loneliness. Whereas this, I think you get it really just like kind of concisely in the one scene where he goes over to Penelope Cruz's apartment and he's looking. All the photos that get to him are the photos where she's with friends, like smiling, or with family, and he's like, I don't have this. And then she talks about also how when he goes back to his apartment, like which was like crowded with people for a party, like it will be completely empty, and that sort of like seems to stop him cold, where he's like, oh, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna be alone. It's like that's not great. Like I do think the movie is like showing how like this guy, it is like a very thin veneer keeping him together at the start. But yeah,
right, because Cruz also says whenever they come over to her place, she was like, laughing, I'll throw you out, and he's like, why would I laugh? So it's not like he is this person, but he's not an asshole about it, or at least that we know of, honestly. So I don't know. There seems to be much more to him in this one than in Vanilla Sky, kind of, as far as empathy for him, but who knows? Yeah. Go ahead.
And like the archetypes thing, it is like, yes, it's like both the construction of like the of his world that he's living in, but also it's like I do think the movie is like, again, taking it to task where it's like he is projecting all of this onto like a girl who like is a dream. I mean, yes, he does have that one night with her and everything, but then it's very telling that he's drawing like sketches with her, and then it's like very like faint recollections. It's like she exists more as a person, like, but we just don't see it because the movie's so like close with his perspective.
And what's interesting about this movie is I feel like the movie definitely knows that with this original version. I feel like the movie's very much aware of what a fucking asshole he is and how he is just projecting on the women. The thing that makes Vanilla Sky confusing is, and especially if you look at Crowe's like other like parts that he's written for women, it's just like I don't know if that's kind of what makes Vanilla Sky a little icky to me, even in its crazier stuff, is like I don't think Cameron Crowe fully understands women and always kind of writes them as, you know, like, and I'm not like, I'm a man, I'm not one to talk, but like I'm just saying like a lot of the roles that Cameron Crowe writes are kind of, you know, the Penny same Lane archetype. Yeah, Penny Lane. And I love Almost Famous, by the way, and I love Kate Hudson's performance in it, but she's not really a real person. She just fits the story.
She goes she ends the movie getting ready to be a real person, and we just don't see it.
And then we just don't see it. I mean, that is a part that I do love about Almost Famous, is at least it gives her the agency to, like, actually grow. But, like, I mean, you look at Kirsten Dunst in Elizabethtown, you know, like...
literally invented the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, Yeah. Okay, let's get into the plot, where this plot says, I think, like 13 times how handsome Caesar is, so yeah.
I've seen E.N. wrote this. Is that Eduardo Noriega?
A great-looking man at all times. Yeah, he wrote this. A handsome young man wakes up to a female voice telling him to open his eyes. He drives to an empty city. He wakes up again, this time to a woman in his bed. He tells her not to leave him messages on his alarm clock. This woman is it Nuria?
Nuria? Let's say
Nuria.
Nuria's, I think it is Nuria at first, because he doesn't meet Penelope Cruz until the birthday.
Well, yes, but I didn't know if it was just some other woman. I didn't know. From a prison cell in Madrid, the 25-year-old man Caesar, played by Noriega, tells his story to psychiatrist Antonio, played by Chet Lira, while wearing a prosthetic mask. Flashbacks reveal the following events. Good-looking Caesar is attracted to women. Okay. That's one sentence. That's okay. At his birthday party, good-looking Caesar is attracted to women. Okay.
And is attractive to women. Yeah.
And I can't
is attractive to women.
And I can't remember if I talked about this before we started recording, but it is interesting how, like, in this one he is like turning 25, he says, like, and like, so he is like just sort of comfortable in his youthfulness, whereas in Vanilla Sky, when he's showing the waking up routine, he's like plucking like gray hairs from his head and trying to preserve his youthfulness and his good looks, like, which is, I think, an interesting extra layer to have in the movie, in that remake. But I do like it here where he is just sort of like laissez-faire and everything, like, you know, he's got like the perfect hair and everything. It's like, and then his friend also is like complaining about how he's like, oh man, if I was better looking I'd get girls and everything, and he has that like I said to Kevin, he looks like a Gallagher brother with like the haircut.
Fucking Oasis looking ass. At his birthday party, he flirts with Sophia, Penelope Cruz, his best friend Peleos, did we get that? Paleo, I got it. By Martinez, who's Paleo's date. Later, he takes her home and stays the night, but they do not sleep together. The next morning, Caesar's obsessive ex-lover, Nuria, pulls up outside Sophia's flat, offering him a ride and sex. Wikipedia. On the way to her house... I don't know. Okay. On the way to her house, however, she crashes the car with the intent to kill them both. Caesar survives the crash, but is horribly disfigured beyond the help of cosmetic surgery, so he decides to wear a mask to conceal his face. Sophia can't bear to see him and tries to keep her distance.
I really liked the movie. What he should have done is just, it's a shame Elias Koteas and Holly Hunter weren't around the corner so they could just get him involved in a super... Never mind, I'm just gonna shut the fuck up. Just realized my delivery of this is just tanking, so I'm just gonna shut up and you can move on.
We'll circle back in a month to this, so
yeah. Can't believe it. I think with both this movie and Vanilla Sky, when he first sees her, he doesn't... We as the audience don't know if she can't bear to see him or she is like upset at the fact that literally he left her house and went to see her, and then that's what happened. Like,
Yeah.
it's like I thought we were gonna be something, and then that happened. It's like, I'm sorry you got messed up and whatnot, but it's like, I don't want to be around you. Or she doesn't like seeing him being so disfigured. It's like you can never really tell which way that she's leaning and whatnot.
And
Yeah.
because it's from his perspective, as we soon find out. I mean, that's kind of the point. But
Well, not at that part though.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just before the splice, as they call it.
Yeah.
Paleo does have that one really brutal line where he's like saying, like, if you're mad, like, don't take it out on me, don't take it out on some girl you met one time or whatever. And he's like, fuck. It's like, oh jeez, like, it is really like, pathetic. Like,
I know. It's like he's putting. I mean, we find out 150 years into this relationship that lasted one night. Like, after Caesar's disfiguration, he begins to have a series of disorienting experiences. Drunk, Caesar falls asleep in the street. On awakening, everything has changed. Sophia now claims to love him, and the surgeons restore his lost looks. But as he makes love to Sophia one night, she suddenly is changed to Nerea. Horrified, Caesar smothers her to death with a pillow. Yet everyone else believes Nerea was indeed the woman everybody else calls Sophia, and he is imprisoned for her murder.
that is, I mean, it takes a little while for him to like
Right.
to murder her. It's not like immediately. First he like beats her up, ties her up, and then like he goes to prison. He goes to jail like trying to get her arrested, and he almost gets arrested for like beating up a woman and everything. And then
I touched upon this earlier, but like
it's really
Vanilla
brutal.
Sky, it's really comical almost, and here it's just upsetting.
Well, yeah, and Vanilla Sky has the one where when he smothers her, it's Cameron Diaz, and then he moves the pillow, and it's Cruz, right?
Yes,
I think.
they don't,
Yeah.
and they don't have that reversal here. It's just he just smothers her and then like
and then runs
away.
out. Yeah, and then sees his reflection, sees that he's still disfigured, and then
Yeah. Yeah, and then the movie is like, I mean, Vanilla Sky, yeah, it is like a Hollywood movie, I guess, where he is like a little more. The movie is like kind of like not taking him to task as much. Where like I think it's Timothy Spall who shows Tom Cruise photos of like, this is what you did, and Cruise is like, I didn't do this, like, come on, like, and then like he's like, it's a setup, and then but no, it's like no, he does it in this one. It is like, but he's like. And Noriega, like, just sort of, like, the evasiveness where he's like, look, I'm the victim here and everything. It's like, I mean, it is kind of chilling to hear him, like, say some of the things where he's, like, saying, oh, no, so now she's the victim and everything. It's like, oh, this is, like, this is, kind of, like, encapsulates all the way a lot of these situations go, unfortunately.
I was
It's
thinking
very
the
sad.
same thing, Bryden. It was much more. It did make my skin crawl a bit. That whole scene and the police, and that's another reason where I'm just like, well, just fuck this guy. I know the movie's not on his side. I don't think the movie's endorsing anything he's doing, but I just don't want to be with this person anymore.
And also that cop too. He says like, "Hey man, get some therapy." And it's like, you can also like arrest him. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Like but it's because she doesn't want to press charges, which is like, yeah, really
right.
sad.
If it's like, hey, look, I beat her, but it was under false pretenses. Okay, you can't arrest me. Like, I'm sorry I assaulted you. I thought you were someone else. Next up, when he is confined to the prison, fragments of this is what I wanted to bring up. I don't know if it's because I've seen Vanilla Sky like 3 or 4 times, but it feels like there was like a 2 or 3, maybe even 4 scenes where it would be him like getting ready or whatnot, and then you would just hear in the background a life extension commercial, and I was just like, was it this obvious in Vanilla Sky? I don't remember.
Well, Vanilla Sky is also like 20 minutes longer, and I can't remember with what they filled that 20 minutes with.
A lot of stuff with the board members and
the magazine. There's the funeral that you see at the end with Spiritual Eyes
Right.
playing
Oh,
over the credits, and then I feel like it's a much more sentimental goodbye too at the end of Vanilla Sky than this one, where it's like just kind of like, well, okay, bye.
well, see you later. Yeah.
Well, there was I do think this movie does it is like super obvious when it's like the Ellie commercials. You're like, know where this is going. But then like I do like how casually the actors play it, where it's like they're like kind of giving the exposition half asleep, where it's like it's like entertainment, or like they freeze her or something like Walt Disney and everything. I did like the Walt Disney reference, and then like again like the little button in the end where he's like lunging, it's like ooh, like trying to like tickle her with like cold hands and whatnot. It's like like that, I did like the natural approach and everything that Amenábar brings to that scene.
I think around that time I was like, I just really want to watch Total Recall right now. Or Brazil. Even Brazil kind of does the same thing, but better.
I mean, Brazil is Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last paragraph, even though I feel like there's a lot of details of Ellie that they're leaving out here. I also feel like the whole life extension is much more not as confusing than in Vanilla Sky. I feel like there's more exposition in Vanilla Sky that kind of confuses it.
Is it
but
Tilda
I could be
Swinton
wrong.
who is the
Yeah.
expository figure? In that one? Yeah.
And again, this is like just another thing where it's like, oh, I like having both versions of this, where it's like the performances of the exposition are so interesting, where like Tilda Swinton is like very gentle and like sort of like, but also just like something kind of creepy. It's like, you're a little too calm about this. Whereas like the guy in this one, I don't know who the actor is, but it's really good how he's just like sort of like very casually, like just sort of like, but like briskly like running through it. It's like, yep, okay, so we're gonna freeze you and give you all this and this and this and this. And he's like sitting in this swivel chair and everything. He's just like, I do like just sort of how mundane it is that he's like laying it out, and it's not like setting the. It's like I don't know. I thought that was like funny, where it's like this guy clearly doesn't care about Tom Cruise, or not Tom Cruise, Eduardo Noriega.
This guy doesn't care about Tom Cruise. Okay, what does that have to do with this movie?
Yeah, but he doesn't care about Cesar. He's just like saying, all right, fine, I'm gonna just like give you like this stuff. It feels like much more obligatory the way he's like giving it out, like the tone of the delivery. Anyways, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Oh god, what was the other thing I wanted? It'll come up. While he's confined to the prison, fragments of his past return to him as if in a dream. It is revealed that shortly after falling asleep drunk on the street, Cesar signed a contract with Life Extension, a company specializing in cryogenics, to be cryogenically preserved and experience extremely lucid and lifelike virtual reality dreams. Returning to their... What?
One thing that when he's having the flashes of the LE meeting where he's like saying, I remember going to a desk and signing some papers, it has like this kind of cool shimmery filter over it, which is really cool. It almost looks like rotoscoping, or like the scenes in Strange Days when they're like jacking in to the video and it's like, kind of like the scrambled video feed. It kind of looks like that filter like over for the whole time, which is really cool. I like.
Yeah. That is a very interesting stylistic flourish. I will give it that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this one also has a different where he talks to his psychiatrist, and he's just like, they're gonna let me use the computer. I'm gonna look up what LE stands for, and also it has that weird fight in the hospital where he's like, where's the remote? I gotta turn this off. And I was like, I don't remember that in Vanilla Sky, because I forget. I forget how he learns in Vanilla Sky, but it definitely wasn't like, yo, I'm gonna get on like early ass Internet Explorer on this prison computer.
There's a computer with internet in here.
Yeah.
The broken part of my brain was just thinking that would be hysterical if it was Christopher McDonald's show from Requiem for a Dream. If he was just like...
Be excited. Turn it off!
Yeah. The Artisan Entertainment Extended Universe.
Yeah. It teased what Requiem for a Dream would deliver, because I think this definitely came out a few years before.
At the end, he goes to Life Extension, and it's Kevin Bacon there, and he's like, I knew you would be here. And it's like, oh, goddamn, it's a Star of Echoes crossover.
I would watch it.
Oh, hell yeah. Returning to their headquarters under supervision by prison officers, he discovers they specialize in cryogenics with a twist. Artificial perception, or their perseverance of a fantasy based on the past to clients who are reborn in the future. He committed suicide at home shortly after signing the contract and was placed in cryogenic suspension. Pretty much what happens is after he gets drunk that one night and falls asleep, he gets up, holds himself in his room, and then finds, it says for like a few months, I think, and then finds that website, takes a bunch of pills, and then they come and get him. The LE representative who explains Cesar's experiences to him while dreaming reveals that the era is 500 years in the future, and Cesar's time from his awakening in the street onward has been a dream, spliced retroactively into his actual life and replacing his true memories, also replacing, his pretty much learning anything about LE and his suicide. At the end of the film, Cesar decides... what?
One thing that I thought was really cool, just a kind of a visual touch at the end with like that rooftop scene, is how like I think it's like when you're looking at like the low angle of Cesar and his doctor, it's like these like very clear in focus like blue skies in the background and everything, but then like when it's like the LE guy who's talking, it's like this very shallow focus sky and everything. I did sort of like showing how like it is like sort of underlining how like he's like he's the one who's offering the truth, but also showing that like the truth is like very shallow and has like, or gosh, that sounds so corny, but like showing how like it is like kind of a fake and it doesn't have as much depth.
Truth is out there.
The life that he thinks he's living. Sorry, that sounded so corny the way I laid it out, but I just thought like, well, that's an interesting touch the way they shot it, but like I expressed it badly. But
Right. Well, the scene that I forgot to bring up which is in both in Vanilla Sky, almost like exactly the same, is when he goes to the bar and the LE guy's there, and then he's just like, you control all the people. He's like, I wish they would all shut up, and then it just goes silent, and everybody is just like staring dead at him like fucking NPCs and whatnot.
That's
It's creepy in both movies.
Yeah, that's a creepy scene.
I forget. There's a Radiohead song in that scene in Vanilla Sky. I think it's Pyramid Song or something like that. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. I really like that scene, even in both movies. At the end of the film, Cesar decides to wake and be resurrected by committing suicide. Convinced his life since the drunken night in the street has been a nightmarish vision created by life extension, he leaps from the roof of the company's high-rise headquarters, and the film ends, apparently ambiguously, on a black screen with a woman telling him to open his eyes. Does he actually wake up? What do you think? Huh?
I don't care.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's bad both ways, where he's gonna wake up and everyone he knew and like he didn't really know that many people or didn't know them intimately, like they're gonna be dead, and it's like gonna be, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's I do like the hollowness of it, where it is like very, like it's like no matter what you choose, you lose. It's like
Yeah.
No matter who wins, we lose. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it's a pretty good shot too, and I think they do it like weirdly in Vanilla Sky, but that shot of him stepping towards the ledge and then it like slowly pans over him. Like it's like a crane shot over it. I thought that was much more effective. Where in Vanilla Sky, I'm pretty sure Tom Cruise just gets to the ledge and the camera's like, and like very quickly, like, oh yeah, let's do this.
He looks back, jumps, and then it's like a montage of like all the things that he saw. It's mostly just like movies he watched and like songs he listened to that like is flashing before him in Vanilla Sky.
It's like
there's like a shot that's like, remember you owned that Bob Dylan album, and he's like, ah.
He remembers Boat Trip, Strangeland, Ringmaster.
Okay, all right. That's another $10 you owe me for mentioning Boat Trip. Okay. But yeah, that's...
Never mind.
No more Boat Trip. I re-listened to that episode. I can hear myself just being dead inside. Anyways, yeah, so that's the end of Open Your Eyes and a little bit of Vanilla Sky at the same time. But yeah. Any final thoughts about Open Your Eyes, Abre los ojos, or Vanilla Sky, or Cameron Crowe as a whole?
Yeah, no, I really liked it. I mean, I found it like effectively creepy and grim throughout. I think Amenábar, I mean, I want to see some of his other movies, and it sucks to hear that like his later movies like don't have as strong a critical reputation. I don't know if I'm gonna like check them out because I don't know if they're like secretly misunderstood or whatnot. But I would like, I could. Maybe he could come back and like make another movie, because I think he has like a really good sense of like how to like create just unease by like simple shot stuff like that, like rack focus to like the headlights like lighting up Cesar. Yeah. I think is like that's really good filmmaking, just like by using the visual medium, and good use of music throughout. Like he's a pretty good composer, I think, like all those rising strings that are always very shrill throughout. Good needle drops, and yeah, no, I liked it, and it's a case of like where a lot of remakes are unnecessary, but it's like a great, I think both movies are, I think Vanilla Sky is a really interesting case where it's like, oh, like, yeah, this movie did a thing really well, this movie's going to do another thing, I think, really well, but like do it, like, it's not what a movie's about, but how it's about it, and it's like how they're about the same thing is very interesting, like tonally and stylistically, and it's like, it's an interesting case for like a movie that stands on its own, but also like worked well to be remade, if that makes sense. I feel like I said it clunkily, but
yeah, I will say it is crazy. I mean, I know this isn't really about Abre los ojos, but I do think everything you're talking about that he does well, Brian, he does do well in the others, so I would check that out. I haven't seen it since like middle school, but I remember loving it.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it since I had that double DVD, that massive ass thing of it. Yeah, that
thing was fat. I remember that thing. And it's crazy to me that I was happy that, like, in retrospect now seeing this, that The Others was not only, like, a hit, but it was a hit during the summer of 2001, and just thinking about, like, supernatural ghost stories like that, and that made, like, so much fucking money, and that during the summer, and it is quiet and patient and tense and emotionally cathartic at the end, in a way that is interesting to me, because I could give less about the character, I could give less of a shit about the protagonist of this story, and The Others is primarily about women, interestingly enough, in a way that I felt like was very sympathetic to them. I'm not even saying that I think the movie's trying to be like no, he deserves all of our feelings. I know the movie's saying he pretty much sucks too, but I do think it's interesting that he shifted from that big hit in America, and then just what happened. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so The Others debuted at 4th place, and then for the next 4 weeks was in 4th place.
That's crazy.
It never went, and then 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 weeks into it, it jumped to number 2, and then back to 5, and then 9. It's really weird. But the opening weekend, it opened up against American Pie 2, Rush Hour 2, Princess Diaries, and Planet of the Apes.
That's insane.
Wow.
That's
oh my gosh.
crazy.
I know.
Planet of the Apes, an example of a bad remake. It is. It does things differently than the original, but it does it badly.
I've only seen snippets of it, but is that around the time that Tim Burton started to fall from grace, would you say?
I mean,
yes.
pretty much anything after Sleepy Hollow, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Big Fish is okay, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, Frankenweenie's cute. I like Frankenweenie, but
Never saw that one. Yeah.
oh, it's cute. It's a guy and his dog. What more do you want? Speaking of guys and his dogs, number 13 is Cats and Dogs. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, one of my favorites as a kid.
Yeah, I saw that one in theaters.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at Kev Bonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at J Doyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CT Nash91. Once again, thank you for listening.